Welcome everyone to Flyte's Contributors Meetup. Today is November 9th, and a couple of reminders. First one, the meeting is being recorded and it will be available on the Flyte YouTube channel under the Contributors Meetup playlist. And also, as every communication channel for this project, it falls under Linux Foundation's Code of Conduct. Okay, I'm sharing again here the link for the agenda notes. Should be, this one should work. All right, let's kick this off. As usual, you can add yourself to attend this list, totally optional. Right, let's welcome new members who's joining for the first time. Let's start with Dan Farrell. Great to have you here, man.
Hi, great to be here.
Awesome. Would you mind briefly introducing yourself?
Yeah, I'm Danny Farrell, or Daniel, doesn't really matter, I guess. And I work for Cyrus Biotechnologies, and I'm a scientist at that company, and I've been working on using Flyte to sort of orchestrate all of our complicated protein design pipelines. And yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's great. You've been really helpful in the community. So yeah, thank you so much for this. And yeah, I don't know, how's been the journey so far with Fly? You have a number of users in the biotech industry, but I'm curious, how's been your journey so far, the highlights and lowlights adopting Flyte?
It's been really good so far. I mean, just it's relatively easy to set up. To just a few little like roadblocks here and there, but none of them were really that crazy. I think probably the biggest ones that we're looking forward to would be the GPU, like, using more GPU, like, what do I want to say, like just better GPU interfaces. But I mean, we have ways around that anyway. And then also the Docker plugin that I have the PR up for. Those are probably some of the bigger things. And then other than that, though, it's been much better than writing YAML for all of the workflows that sorry about that, all of the YAML that I was writing before. So
Some,
yeah, so this is I mean, the bar is really low in that regard, but still it's been very nice to work with Flyte instead. So
cool. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Daniel. All right. Also, Nikki, sorry to call you out, but I think it's your first time joining this meeting, and I feel like you play a major role here. So, will you mind introducing yourself briefly?
Yes, yeah, this is the first one of these I've attended. I just started at Union as a tech writer for Flyte specifically. So we'll be working on Flyte docs. Started working on some of the the onboarding, getting started documentation, but the goal is to really revamp all of the docs. So yeah, nice to meet everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. Anyone else for the joining for the first time? I don't think so. Cool. Welcome everyone again. So let's move to new RFCs. I don't think there are new RFCs, so we can move quickly to the next section unless there's any objection. I don't see any new RFC. What we see here is well, working group updates. Is there any update on the only official working group we have so far? The config override.
I mean, last time we discussed it, it's kind of on hold, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
We made some progress on VS Code decorator. Yeah, the initial PR is already merged. And we're working on the following improvement. No, that's different from the
Not
over. I
related
think we
to
already passed. hold of the config override.
Yeah. It's kind I will let AI take note. Sounds better. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Baron. Cool. All right. I guess we can move to the next item. Now, this is the long one. New ideas in the incubator. If you're not familiar, the incubator is a section in the GitHub discussions in the Flyte repo where you can gauge the interest in the community and potentially having new RFCs, ideas that could be a new RFC. And if you're not sure that's the case, well, the incubator is the place to kind of flesh a raw version of your idea and get feedback. We have a number of these ideas there. And I guess it's time to revisit this. I took the freedom of moving up this one because it's related to a contribution from Daniel. And I wanted to let it to the end. First one, build images on the fly while registering. So
I
yeah,
think this is already achieved by image spec. Is
Yes.
it?
That was also my understanding. I feel it's like the thread is on March, and for NFD that's implemented. And there is this RC that we talked about just now that implements the same for Docker. So I think it's interesting to talk about the PR that adds this for Docker, but I feel that the RC incubator thread at this point can be closed. What are your thoughts?
Agreed.
cool. Thank you. All right. And yeah, there's a related PR from Daniel developing a Docker plugin. So he had a number of questions trying to get feedback. So I don't know if you, Daniel, do you wanted to elaborate a little bit?
Let me see. Let me see if I just.
Or you want to share a screen?
No, yeah, I'll just talk,
Okay.
and I guess I'm really just sort of trying to get some ideas of, what's been thought about and what's been discussed before in terms of image spec. And so I think I did see earlier that there was some discussions about having a Docker plugin, but then it looked like ENVD had been used instead, and I didn't really know, why that was done or just the reasoning behind it. And I mean, I've liked ENVD overall so far, just for little things, but when it comes to the very bloated academic workflows that I'm used to using, everything's just been always done in Docker. So converting that and translating that over would be sort of confusing. So that's why I thought I would just make this plugin. And so one of the concerns was that, and I think I didn't write it here, but if you have, a dynamic workflow currently, and then essentially when that dynamic workflow is actually run on the Flyte executor, then it tries to build everything itself, like anything that needs to register and all that stuff, which makes sense just because of overrides and everything, but it sort of complicates everything because then you need to add in all of the credentials, and you're gonna have to push that all that to the server as well, and so then things just get really complicated. So I was trying to think if there was a good way that you can we might be able to integrate like this Docker builder, but in a way that we can avoid having to push credentials and all these other things. And so I think in the PR there's like some discussions, and then I also have some like notes just written throughout the thing in the README and so on. But essentially one of the problems that's happening, and I can't remember who I was messaging on this PR earlier, but is that if you have a workflow currently, like your whole workflow, everything is versioned based on the Python code that's imported. And so that's great and everything, and it works, for envd perfectly, because anytime you want to change something, you're actually changing the Python code. But if you're actually importing a file, such as through a Docker file or something, that is currently incompatible with the way that workflows are run and registered through Flyte. And so because changes in the Docker file are not propagated to the version hash that's used to define the workflows, you can't technically do things the way that I've implemented them. And I wasn't sure if people had thought about that, or if there had been any discussions earlier about sort of like callbacks to, either hash more or to hash parts of tasks separately. I just wanted to get some feedback on that before I dove in and started planning some other things. So
Hi, Daniel. Yeah, we have some feedback. So yeah, first off, thank you for doing this. We have talked about this internally. Yeah, we want to do this internally. Yeah, so thank you. So for the hash stuff, I think you can read a Docker file and then hash this file and then save it somewhere in the image spec. Right.
okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I could. I just wasn't sure
in
what
the
you
image
thought would
spec,
be the best way.
we can specify the requirement.txt. So we hash the requirement.txt. So every time you change the requirement, we will rebuild the image spec as well.
Okay, so then if I use the source and then if I hash the Docker context as well as the Docker file, then that might be one way of doing it. Should be good.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And then the issue in dynamic text is that for now, when you use image spec in dynamic text, Flyte will not check if image exists, and it just directly build the image in the dynamic text. That's a bug in 1.10. We will fix it in the next release, because when you before you reach the workflow, we will build the image for your text inside dynamic, right? So when you run the dynamic text on the cluster, we should not build the image, right? The image already exists in the Docker hub somewhere, right? So we should not build it. Yeah. So I will fix that, and then I will give it to you.
Okay. Yeah. And then so I guess on that sort of on that train of thought, if you have currently, if you have your environment locally or wherever you're running these things from, so if I have my Docker context, that doesn't necessarily get pushed or tarred up to the actual task. So then so I think I might be able to just use copy all, but it might need to be more complicated than copy all. Does that make sense? I'm sorry if I'm not explaining it properly.
The workflow code itself?
Yeah, so right now, if I'm say I have, this is the location of my Docker file, and this is, all of the files that, maybe I want to import them into the Docker image when I'm building it and so on. If you push, if I'm sending my workflow to, a remote, then everything gets packaged up and then run there. But when it does that, it's checking, where's the context directory, and then it's checking in that Docker build context directory, and then it's checking in the Docker build context directory, what are the files in here and everything, and then it's building the hash based on that. So the hash on the remote will be different than the hash locally, because it's not copying all the files with the associated Python files. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. I know that problem.
What hash do we need to calculate in the cluster? I don't get this part.
The hash, on the cluster, or sorry, so there's the hash, that version that's associated with a workflow or a task is associated with all of the associated Python code and files that are imported and run, I believe. I can't remember the exact function. And so then that's like when when image spec is checking to see like, hey, does this image exist or like already exist, it's recalculating that hash on the remote to check and see if it exists.
My point is, I feel like there should be an if statement somewhere there that checks, are we currently registering locally or are we already in execution mode in the cluster? In the latter case, it shouldn't even check whether the image exists anymore, because at that point it should already exist, right?
Yeah, so in the plugin, I have like a sort of, you could consider it like a hack in a way, like basically if the, I don't know, there's some variable that has like an underscore in an IMG that, and like basically if this variable is set to anything, then don't build. But you know, this, on the downside of that, like if you're actually using, I don't really know if people are using Flyte to, you know, do like CI or CD or anything, but you know, if they're actually going to be, you know, building Docker images remotely, then that would sort of cut that out. Does that make sense?
But building Docker images on Kubernetes, at least it's since containerd is standard, it's not easily doable, and it's not in the scope of what Flyte does, I feel.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I don't know what everybody else is doing, so I just didn't want to make a decision without discussing it further.
Yeah, we discussed this internally before as well. Like, we want to have a pipeline to run some tests, and then some of the pod can build the image, but it requires to run the Docker in Docker. So yeah, as Fabio says, it's hard to do, but we will not to do it now. But we're thinking this before. Yeah, we want to do this at some point. Yeah.
So then, I guess I think like one option is to either just, you know, somehow have like some like either some pre-built, some way to like pre-build and push things just on the actual like computer that you're doing like PyFlight run on, and then, but then the problem with that is that there's like no what do I want to say?
Yeah, I think
Like you can't do with overrides for environment variables and stuff, because that requires that the Docker files are like the Docker things are rebuilt. So
you cannot select the environment variables by setting them on the pod. I think you don't need to put them into the image.
Yeah, I feel like I thought that, but then it didn't work that way. I can't remember. I don't know. I can double check. But I guess that would be pushing more of, you know, the handling of the environment to like I can't remember what actually runs everything, Flyte controller. So because I think in ENVD and maybe is it true in ENVD that the environment variables are set at build time?
Yeah, you can set variable in build time. Yeah.
But is it set at build time, or is it set at like it's set at build time and at execution time? Like, so with overrides doesn't trigger a rebuild, or?
I think for now, like, we should force people to build the image locally before they register the workflow. And then in dynamic, no matter in dynamic or in regular text, we should not build the image anymore.
Yes. I think that's an important point, because right now the philosophy is that Flyte does not care where the image comes from. And I feel it shouldn't change because of a plugin philosophy.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. I just want to make
Is
sure.
is this related to, I remember I don't know if this has been fixed, but I remember at some point when you register a dynamic task workflow, we don't actually know what's called inside of it, so we can't, unlike a static workflow, we don't know like what we need to register necessarily to make that dynamic workflow actually work at runtime. So this seems somewhat related because, like, say I call task 1 that I've imported from somewhere else. Like at registration time, I guess if that task is imported in like the module you're trying to register, you can just assume, hey, let's just build everything that's being imported in here. Like let's build the images associated with tasks that are imported or defined in the module. There's also an issue with eager workflows. It's like you don't know what it's going to need beforehand. So the workaround there is you just have to register everything before even trying to run it. So yeah, I'm not sure how we solve for this in this like specific kind of like dynamic workflows with Docker build stuff. Like, do we just force people to, yeah, I don't know. We force everyone to just like build and push those images with Flyte build. Yeah, I don't know what the best solution is.
All right. Thank you. Any other comment?
I guess, yeah,
Go ahead.
I guess the only other thing that I was wondering about is, so right now, image spec has, you know, a bunch of defined arguments that you pass to it. And so then when I wrote this plugin, I wanted to add my own arguments to pass to the image. And so, I mean, I don't really know what the team really has, you know, like looked into the future and saw like, you know, how extravagant are these image spec plugins going to get. But you know, like right now I have to change the Flyte kit code, and then I have to, you know, it's not like super easy to develop, I guess. And so I didn't know if there was any thoughts on like maybe having just like a init dictionary or something. I mean, I know that isn't really ideal because you lose typing and everything because of that, but like as the way it is right now, like I have to, like, developing the plugin requires also modifying the actual Flyte module. So I don't know if like the problem that I'm having right now, if anybody thinks that that's like this is probably just a one-off thing, or if anybody thinks that it might just be.
So Daniel, so your problem is that like when you try to add a new argument in the image spec, you also need to change the empty plugin, right?
Right. So then I need to build an image to use as the like executor or whatever image on the Flyte server.
Okay.
Right, because then it's, sorry.
Oh, no. Go ahead, sorry.
Right, because it's like saying, it's like, okay, here's Docker, I want to like pass the argument Docker file, but that argument doesn't exist in whatever, so.
Okay. I haven't looked at your PR yet. Let me think more about it. Can we think offline later today?
Sure, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm not like expecting things to be done super fast. I just want to talk about it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fabio.
I just wrote it in the
Okay.
in the chat. You in the PR you wrote one sentence which was that having the shared image spec kind of defeats the purpose of the plugin system for the builder. And I feel that's true. I feel like the plugin system where you can register the builder, you should also be able to give it like the fitting image spec for the builder class. I wrote it in the PR too.
Yeah, is there like any documents on like if I'm developing this? Like, is there sort of like a more like I guess like iterative quick way to be like rebuilding and packaging Flyte and then having that be the image that the remote workflow is run on? Like, I guess, do you guys have like a really fast way of doing that, or because I've just been like building Docker images and pushing them and then setting the dash image
You can copy the
Flyte run.
You can copy the Flyte folder into the image and set the Python path correctly so that when you do import Flyte, it chooses that one that you copied into the image over, or just fast registered into the image over the one that is in the side packages. So if you put it into when you do Python run or Python register, and then your Flyte folder is symlinked into the root of the tarball, then it's copied into the bucket, and then you just need the right Python path, and then you can basically develop Flyte while fast registering your workflow, and you still get updates from Flyte.
Okay. Okay, I'll try that. That sounds much faster than what I've been doing. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all. And yeah, keep the conversation going in the PR. All right, time to move to the next one. Disabling caching when running locally. Here is a comment from Fabio. Basically, probably could be just a PR, not an RFC. Any objection, comment?
Didn't run to implement this. Really looking forward to it because we did run into a few issues, like quite some. And so this is also kind of company priority for us to get this in.
Right, cool. Sorry, there's a bunch of noise here. In conclusion, okay to make it a PR and probably not an RFC, or
I don't think we need an RFC for this.
okay, cool. Okay. Close. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Bernard, also. Cool. Streaming literals. Yes, with RFC to iron out UX.
It's a question, not a statement.
Okay. Comments on this idea? To be an RFC or not? That's the overarching question in this section.
So I can say that people have asked me whether this works with Flyte in the past, and one of my friends also posted that who asked me about this, wrote here in the discussion that he'd love this feature. For me, the question would be whether you need feedback on how it should look like, or whether you have a clear idea how it should look like.
Okay, any other comment, feedback, please? So it fits into an RFC or not? Probably yes, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Cool. Cool. So let's edit this, and guess the next step will be to craft a new RFC for this. Will be an RFC. Thank you. I don't know who's taking notes. Is it you, Fabio?
Yeah, like I'm updating
Yeah.
the markdown
Awesome.
document.
Thank you. All right. Is it Baron still here? No, seems like he's not. Here is the VS Code decorator. Troy.
Oh yeah, the VS Code decorator. So we have merged the first version of it into master. So everyone can use it right now, I think.
Okay, so I guess no RFC required, and
Also
partly,
Flyte, right?
yeah, right?
Yeah, this is totally isolated from the Flyte kit. It's a plugin, so I think no RFC required.
Cool. Yeah. No RFC required.
I would have one question because I briefly saw this the other day and read through it, and I wonder what the use case is, because I feel like I'm missing that use case in the sense that I feel like this could be useful, but I don't know how.
So this is like if you want to interactively debug your task. So you probably will create a task, and if you just debug it locally, you might not have the environment in the remote. So here you just add a VS Code decorator and you run it on the remote. Then it will create a VS Code server in the remote, and you can open your browser and connect to the VS Code server, so you can debug remotely
Okay.
with the VS Code server.
Okay, very cool. I'll try that out. Thank you.
Question, Bernard. Thank you. Troy. All
Byron,
right.
Any thoughts on like writing a blog about this, Byron? I think it would be really interesting to once we get it like baked a bit, it would be super cool to show people how this is done.
Okay, sure. We definitely will do that. Thank you.
Sorry, Troy. I looked up without seeing it was you, and I know Byron was talking about this, so I called you Byron.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. It's like Byron had this idea first, and he asked me whether I want to collaborate on this. Yeah. So this
That's
is
awesome.
the idea from Byron.
Yeah, super cool. But no, I was literally trying to do two things at once and got confused. That's great.
No problem. Thank you.
Cool. Next one. This plugin author looking for feedback on their implementation. So yeah, probably for the question if this is an RFC or not. Yeah, probably is not the better place, but in general, probably I can continue the discussion with him and in the contribute channel, and everybody can jump in and give feedback. Do you agree? Cool. There you go. So thank you, Fabi. All right. Cool. Next up, GPU type selection. Yeah, I guess different ideas on how the UX should be. And the comment is that it should be an RFC.
That's just my suggestion. Has any, I think G for Eve, I'm sorry that I probably butchered your name, was working on it. Does anyone know what's the status here?
Yeah, we're actually pretty close to merging this in Flyte Kit. Like the changes in the backend are already done. Like you'll be able to select different GPU accelerators.
Okay.
There will be like a blog post or something like this is a big feature.
Then that's not. Then
you can take a look. Like the
RFC.
Flyte Kit PR shows like how we are thinking. Like once new GPUs come on board, like how you can actually select them, like
that would be my question.
And all that.
Can I not use the next NVIDIA GPU with Flyte Kit 1.9 because it wasn't in Flyte Kit 1.9? That would be my question.
Yeah, no. That we thought about like how to, we're not locked to a fixed set of GPUs. There's escape hatch.
Okay, good. Then I think it can be closed here.
I'll let you add the notes because we are in a race condition. Okay, save resolves execution parameters in Flyte admin. where are you? There you go. Should be an RFC or an issue. What are your thoughts? Okay, any objection against proposing Katrina to make this an issue instead of a RFC? Right, let's do it. So I'll reach out to her to ask opening a new issue for this. Right. There you go. Yes. Distributed locks. Yeah, now development since July, August. Interesting idea, but it should have a champion. I mean, we don't have expiration dates established for entries in the incubator, as we have, for example, for working groups. But yeah, I mean, if there is no champion for this, what we can do is to cast a wider net and see if the original author or someone else in the community wants to champion this, or then we can decide if it's time to close. You agree?
A quick question, David, on this, and I guess process just in general on these. It's really great to have this around and have continual upvotes for people that are interested in this. If we close this, are we transitioning it to an issue so that we can still kind of maintain some kind of view on what community interest is? I think there's a lot of people that are periodically interested in this, but at this time there's not like a clear path forward or somebody to do the work. But it is a very important component that I think we'll continue to get interest in.
Yeah, I need to dig a little deep on what's the behavior of closed discussions, if it's still browsable and we can reopen. I'm not sure. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the idea is not to lose this forever. And also indeed the idea of RFCs is not that the authors should implement this. So yeah, probably having a champion for this is not necessarily for them to make it happen until the end, but at least to continue the discussion. So yeah, I will dig a little deep. What will be the best mechanism to retain this IP? It's very important. You're right. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, add that to the comments. So, not sure. Yeah, let's say that we'll reach out to the original authors as a first step to see what they want to do with this. Right. Cool. All right. Yeah, run Flyte except from the Jupyter notebooks. It's very interesting. Yeah, some comments there. So what are your thoughts on making this idea an RFC or not?
I feel like this could be an issue. There's nothing that I can think of right here that require sort of like multi-component changes. It's like pretty much Flyte kit. Maybe Flyte IDL, but I don't think so. Yeah. And I think that, yeah, so I guess for that, I would maybe say this is an issue. I don't know how relevant it is to discuss details, but that's my thought.
Cool. Thank you, Niels. All right. Where are you? Station. Cool. Next one, feedback mechanism from task pod to propeller, use pod logs.
I wrote that it's important. I can jump in this one and try to make an RFC. Understand it's a sensitive topic because it will require or it might require architectural changes. But I'm asked often by users like, why can't I just add this information here from my run to the UI immediately? Like, people would like to go from a running task to, for example, a 1TB link or so on. Currently they can't. Which is why I feel having this connection, this communication channel from a running pod to propeller, one way or another, would enable us to do cool things. Which is why I think we should discuss this one.
I actually weirdly found another project that's doing this exact same thing with Kubernetes, using a sidecar container to use logs to send information back that we might be able to use as like an implementation guideline if this is the path we choose to go. But yeah, if you're willing to champion this, Fabio, like I'm happy to help where I can, and certainly go from there.
Awesome.
Okay,
thank you. Great. All right, next one, introduce triggers for workflows. Okay, yeah, it has some activity there. So what are your thoughts? Yeah, the comment there from Fabio is if Niels could be a champion.
Maybe a question. There are triggers now via the Airflow integration, right? Would the Airflow integration allow you to do that already here, or are these kind of triggers not able to register when another workflow ran, for example? Because that's what this is described here.
Yeah, I guess when I wrote this out, didn't have a particular strong opinion on a solution in mind, just the ability to express soft dependencies between the DAGs, or I guess the graphs that we have today that are mostly static. Feel like the Airflow integration would basically support this use case. I know with artifacts we have some interesting things in mind, but yeah, I think maybe this is worth like an investigation to see, how to use the Airflow operators to kind of enable what's expressed in this. So yeah.
And just leave this one open, maybe.
Hey Niels, just one question. So do we want to listen the workflow or task execution event and then trigger another downstream workflow? Is that what we want to do?
Yeah, I need to look at the RFC again. It's been some time. I don't even remember. I feel like the only use case I can remember is like say I have a workflow that produces a model and then I'm using that model in a scheduled batch inference job. Yeah, so that was one use case of like using just the latest model produced by that workflow. And I guess that's an artifact. I feel like that is now fulfilled by artifact. So it's kind of like conflated the different use cases in that incubator ticket. So yeah, maybe I can go in and kind of revise it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next one, customizing login links. This one from Fabio.
It's very close to the one about the communication channel from the task pod to Propeller. And I feel if we had this communication channel, this here would be probably not worse on RFC. Then it would just be like, hey, we want to send another piece of information from the running task to Propeller. So maybe since I said that I'll spearhead the other one, maybe we can just, for now, not worry about this one. And once we have this communication channel, then just implement this one, as like create an issue for it and implement it, and just use this one here now for one reason why the other one is needed.
Okay. Any objection? No? Cool. So I guess it will remain open until we confirm. Yeah. Is that correct, Fabi?
Yeah, we can just leave it open. When writing the IRC for the communication channel one, I'll put this one here in as an argumentation as one use case, what this would be needed for, and then I'll close both of them.
Got it. Thank you. All right. Notification system. Yeah, improve the Slack integration. So yeah, I think in May we already decided that this should be an RFC, and I reach out to different channels to the author with no response. So I guess the next step will be to cast a wider net and see if someone else in the community wants to champion.
There was already
the
a PR that implemented this, at least for GCP with PubSub, and I think also with Redis. Is there the last thing I saw that it was closed because of the monorepo and transferred to the new Flyte monorepo? Is there a plan to continue this PR, or is it on hold? I linked it here.
Who was the original author, Fabio?
I don't know. Can you click on it, David? Can you go back and to the other tab? I linked the I linked the PR there. Wait, let me. 10 seconds. Okay, so you are obviously the current author because you opened it. And the original one. Oh, no, that's the
Sorry, network interruption. So I am sorry. Last thing was here, Flyte webhooks. Probably you already answered this, but do we want to or do we plan to continue this PR? I think so, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, for now we are working on some other stuff. Like if anyone can help, like we can continue on this PR.
What is the so we would want to use the feature. What kind of help would you say is needed? Because then we can think about whether we can help on this.
Yeah, for now I added a webhook in the Flyte admin so people can configure the webhook endpoint in the admin config map. I think we should also add other stuff in Flyte key. So, and also ideal, we should think more about the UX and identify some API in the Flyte key side. If we want to have, like, we can think offline.
Yeah,
later.
let's think asynchronously. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we are running short on time, but next one, Spark resource config from machine config. Okay, what are your thoughts on making this one? Oh, no, I'm not sharing. On making this one an RFC or not? And if so, probably we'll need a champion. I can reach out. I think Peridot is James. It was James. But what are your thoughts on this idea?
I think that was Evan.
Evan, yeah, right. So, yeah, in general, this one should be an RFC feature request, or we should close this. Any comment? Yeah, probably need to figure out what to do with this kind of ideas where the author probably is not engaged anymore. And I guess the next logical step will be to again reach out to the broader community and see if someone wants to take the next step. But the overarching question is if this one should be an RFC or not. Or it needs more information, whatever. It fits. Cool. So yeah, probably I'll investigate a bit more what to do with this idea, and we'll let you know. Yeah, true. Cool. Add notes to executions. Yeah, the question is if this is already covered by the system tags and metadata RFC.
Right. So we have the system tags and metadata in the backend that's there, not in the Flyte console. And I think what the user who wrote this would want to have is the ability to do that in Flyte console. So maybe this can be transformed into an issue that this should be added to Flyte console, as it's supported already in the CLI and in the backend.
Gabby, are you talking about execution tags?
So I think it was it in 1.10? It was just recently, right? You can do pyflight run -- tag and then just give some tag to the execution.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there was also the ability. It also gives you the ability to add metadata or comment. I haven't tried it yet. I'm not sure exactly how it was named. And back when we discussed the RFC, the idea was to bring it first to the CLIs and basically make it work in the backends. And then in the next step to allow users to add and modify and delete tags and metadata also in the Flyte console. And I feel this is exactly what this discussion here is suggesting. Is there already an issue?
Yeah, this seems like a great Flyte console type of request. This use case can be serviced by these execution tags.
Exactly, yeah. So this is already the issue for it.
All right. Cool. Thank you. So already covered by an issue. This. It's here. Right. Allow users to inject secrets via pyflight run. Be interesting.
Yeah, we're working on this on Union Cloud side. I don't know. I know we generally don't discuss those things here, but yeah, just want to call that out.
Okay, so yeah, for the overarching goal, probably it won't be an RFC, right?
Yeah, we can probably close this.
Okay.
Unless, yeah.
We have this here. Okay, only two left. Instantly running tasks. Yeah.
Yeah, this is another oldie. Earlier this year. Yeah, this is basically just like tasks as endpoints you can hit. And so that kind of breaks the opinion that we have about how flight tasks work. So probably not an open source thing.
Got it. Thank you. And finally, improving launch plan UX.
I think many of these, let's see. Yeah, this has kind of been addressed. I think Keithan's been on a rampage, kind of like making Flyte run and PyFlyte CLI better. So I think this is addressed pretty much.
Yeah, right. Wait. Distributions. Cool. Great. Thank you all for your patience. We needed to do this. That was long overdue. And yeah, thank you, Fabio, for taking time. We are out of time. So thank you all for joining and hope to see you in the next one. It was great to see you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good evening, good day. Bye.